You know what? Made to Express makes bangers. I love their I love this shit. How SpongeBob reveals the secret to a meaningful life. Ooh,
One of my
that's a
favorite
banger.
quotes of all time is, "Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right." Before Michael Phelps became the most successful Olympian of all time, before Oprah Winfrey became the richest African American of the 20th century, before Martin Luther King Jr. changed history by limiting discrimination around the globe, they all had to have a vision first. It's so easy to forget that's where literally every human-made event that has ever happened in history started, with an idea in the mind. The older most of us get, the more we forget how powerful the human mind actually is. Children are born with their creative powers fully intact. That's why they do whatever they want, because they don't give a damn and see no reason to. They simply follow whatever seems fun. Adults are trained to believe that following the fun the same way a child does isn't very realistic, and as a result, they end up like poor Squidward tentacles, stuck at a dead-end job with no motivation or expectation of a bright future.
Once in a while, I need to breathe in and not smell grease, or the stench of my miserably failed life.
Let's talk about where Squidward is at this point in his life for a minute. He has dreams of being a famous musician, but has gotten little to no luck getting there. The few times he does use his creativity, such as trying to be an artist, he gets shamed for that as well. When you've failed so many times in your life, it gets to a point where you have no desire to express yourself creatively any longer, because you fear it will simply lead to more disappointment. The optimism has been sucked out of him so hard to the point where he now sees the world in this black and white perspective. SpongeBob, on the other hand, enjoys flipping burgers for a living because that's his passion. The average viewer might say, well, so what? He's working at a basic fast food restaurant. The point is, he couldn't care less about status. He makes a living doing what he loves, and that's good enough for him. And even though he's
We were all
technically
Squidward at some point. I disagree. I've never been Squidward.
an adult, he still loves jellyfishing, blowing bubbles, and laughing his ass off at the most immature jokes. Regardless of what anyone thinks, he's living his best life. If
I've
we're
always
basing
been. I've
success
always
off
been
overall happiness,
like I've been a pussy before. Like I was a pussy before in life, but I was never a pessimist. I was always optimistic.
SpongeBob is successful and Squidward is not. But why is it so?
Imagination.
Are you trying to say I have no imagination?
Yes, I am. Now I want to talk about the power of being delusional. Humans are trained early in life to be disciplined, educated, and to follow the rules with what is or isn't socially acceptable.
I mean, being
The
dedicated
issue
is
here
bad.
is because of this robotic behavior most of us develop when we become adults, we start to rely on logic rather than by faith. We don't try to go after our dreams because they're quote unquote unrealistic. We try to work a ridiculous amount of hours at a job we don't like just for a paycheck. We try to use stupid, cringy pickup lines to get people to like us. Why would they like us if we were just ourselves?
Oh, that one
This
hits
A
hard.
plus B equals C mindset can only get you so far in life. There comes a point when you just have to take a leap of faith and hope for the best. That's how people do and discover things that have never been done before. Your life is determined by how big your imagination is.
True.
You'll notice that
I
throughout
agree.
the series,
Fat agree.
SpongeBob is always the one defying the odds. Most of the time, his optimism leads to a positive result by the end of the episode, leaving Squidward feeling jealous or underappreciated. One episode that I think explains everything I've said so far in a nutshell is Idiot Box. This episode begins with SpongeBob and Patrick receiving a
Oh, I love
package
this
with a
episode.
TV inside of it. Strangely, they only ordered the TV just so they could play in the box. This confuses Squidward because what's so exciting about an empty box? SpongeBob tells Squidward they don't need television and all they really need is their imagination. Squidward thinks that statement is cute at best and doesn't take it seriously. But he does take
Favorite
the
episode?
TV. Unfortunately,
It's not my
for
favorite,
him,
but it's a good
he
one,
has to realize
personally.
the power of imagination the hard way. SpongeBob and Patrick are able to make incredibly realistic sound effects with their imagination, leaving Squidward feeling confused throughout the entire episode.
How are they doing that? Throttling down now. That was the most realistic space launch I've ever heard. There must be an explanation. Think, Squidward, think!
This is a great example when I say many of us rely too much on logic, which isn't a bad thing, but we always need
It was good, Joey.
proof or an explanation. But to truly have an imagination, it means to defy what logic says is possible. We think it's this complex thing, but sometimes it really is just as simple as having an imagination and believing whatever image one puts in their mind to be true, no matter how stupid it sounds to everyone else.
Oprah gives a master. Wait, what? Oprah gives masterclass in manifestation and vision boards. A wink in time. You know what? I'll watch that later. That video is fat, probably. That video is probably massive. Hold on. Oprah gives masterclass on manifestation. How long is that? 4 minutes. Yeah, we're gonna watch that after that.
Sounds to everyone
Yo,
else.
what's good, dude? Hello.
Squidward refuses to believe in this imagination nonsense and desperately looks for answers. He sneaks into the box at night while the other two are asleep to search for a hidden button that he believes is inside. And when he doesn't find anything, he gets incredibly frustrated, then questions if they were telling the truth all along.
Maybe it really was their imagination. Oh, get it together, Squidward. What are you saying?
After finally making a real attempt to see if this whole imagination mumbo jumbo works, he is surprised to hear sound effects indicating there's some truth behind what the boys have been telling him. It is here where he realizes imagination itself is more exciting than material items such as TV will ever be, even if sometimes it can get a little too real or lead to unfortunate events like ending up in a dump, for instance. Although that ending is unfortunate for Squidward, for a brief moment, he discovers where happiness comes from.
This is the most fun I've ever had!
A lot of us have the misconception
Damn.
that once we become mega famous on social media, that's when we'll be happy. Or once we find our soulmate, that's when we'll be happy. Or once we buy that house, that's when we'll be happy. But happiness is not necessarily the goal itself, but is instead the feeling we get from imagining or believing our desires to be possible and true. There are many
I don't know.
stories that prove if you daydream about something long enough, that desire will eventually come true in one way or another. By having faith.
I don't know. I feel like personally, like getting like a soulmate or shit like that. That can. I mean, I feel like a lot of things can lead to happiness. Like followers, they can lead to happiness. Obviously, I feel like they're not the end all, where it's like the only thing that will make you happy. It's more just like it's like another quality of life change, if that makes sense. Because like obviously having a villa to yourself will give you more opportunities to be happy. Being rich will give you more opportunities to be happy. The thing in itself won't be that, but it will still be a quality of life change, obviously.
Optimism, you can create the life of your choice simply by believing in yourself. With an imagination, anything is possible.
Also, this is just my own take, but I hate this culture nowadays, where it's like, this culture is so set on everything needing to be fucking facts and logic. It's wild. Like, everything just needs to be based around it. It's kind of cringe.